Gabriel has called from Hackney. Hello, Gabriel.
Hi, Sheila. Thanks for taking my call. I've been listening to this from this morning and actually heard the comments last night early in the morning, and I'm actually horrified that we are now normalising ethnic cleansing. The fact that this discussion is even happening without utter condemnation.
How is it being normalised? Just tell me that.
Well, just the fact that Trump is now literally saying he wants to turn it into a residential area and just build properties on the bones of dead children. And we're discussing this as an alternative solution. This should be unequivocally condemned.
I'm not. I won't speak for anybody else, but I'm not. I'm asking what you think Trump is playing at, because I don't think it's remotely likely or possible that he can just wade in and start building, Atlantic City on the shores of Gaza. I don't think that it's not going to happen. So what is he trying to do is my question.
Well, no one really knows what goes on in his head. And I don't think anyone can predict what he's thinking or what his ideas. But don't forget that Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, actually put this proposal out last year. So this is not new thinking.
Donald Trump has been talking about it being a great piece of real estate in the last few months as well.
Absolutely. Look, we have to look at this for what it is. This is just simply ethnic cleansing. This is the same as when the Americans moved the Native Americans out of their lands to reservations, the same as when Nazis were moving Roma, Gypsies and Jews out of Nazi Germany to take over land. This is what it should be referred to as. The idea that we're now, trying to put some kind of clean label on it as, a different way of thinking, or, is this possible? Is this right? Is this not? This just should be blatantly condemned, and it has been by quite a lot of people. And I think it needs to continuously be condemned by everyone for what it actually is.
And as Jasmine El Gamal said, my first guest at the top of the hour, she was talking about the sort of lack of reality underpinning what he was saying yesterday in that speech. He was, as she put it, all over the place.
Yes, and I agree there's lack of reality, but we also have to remember this is probably the most powerful man in the world. So, and just take it into consideration as well what happened in his own country recently with Elon Musk. I don't know the dynamics of it, but taking over his Doge, whatever it is, taking over the payrolls of whatever. These things are actually happening.
Taking over huge government departments and warning the education department is next.
Absolutely. So this guy, that we should be taking this seriously. The fact that we are now saying, this is not realistic. This man is a very powerful man who, in my opinion, is unhinged and also a convicted felon in reality. So can I ask
you though? Routinely and immediately after the ceasefire was announced, leading Hamas figures and some of the prisoners who were released, who were, had been convicted for murder. I know not all of the prisoners in those prisons have been convicted or even tried. But those that had been, plenty of them, when they came out, immediately started saying, we will continue the fight to remove every Israeli from this land. Are you as exercised by that language as you are by Trump's?
Well, look, first of all, when you talk about conviction, you're talking about conviction in what kind of court? What type of convictions are we talking about?
All right, let's say they're all innocent of anything, and they come out of prison, and the first thing they say is, "Let's continue the fight to remove any Jews from this land." Are you as exercised about that, Gabriel?
Of course, that kind of language is not going to lead to anything positive. Obviously, I am. This is not
because
the way forward.
Because that's calling for ethnic cleansing as well, isn't it?
Of course, but these people coming out of jails that have been there for 20, 30 years don't have as much power as Donald Trump, so you can't put them on the same platform.
No, they don't.
There's no equivalence between the two.
No, they don't, but they are echoing precisely what the Hamas leadership wants, and that's backed up by very powerful people in Iran, and has been for years.
Well, we know, we've seen what Iran is capable of, and it's not as much as what Israel or what the US is capable of. We cannot make an equivalence between the two. America is possibly the most powerful military in the world, with huge influence, huge military power, huge financial power. You cannot compare what America wants to what Hezbollah or Iran wants. There is no equivalence between the two.
I hear you, but there is equivalence in as much as two sides of the same coin in terms of the whole conflict at play here. There's equivalence there, isn't there?
Well, there is, but look, this kind of thinking will eventually go away when you give people a light at the end of the tunnel, when there is When you're using language like we're going to move you to a different country, of course you're going to have that kind of sentiment, especially after, 60 plus thousand Palestinians have been killed. What kind of horizon is there for these people?
And when Israelis and Jews worldwide are told that, what do you think about that?
Told what, sorry?
Go to another country.
Yeah, but then they're not. I mean, who's telling Israelis to go to another country? I mean, there's no one of power in any political standing telling Israeli or Jews to go to other countries.
But the sad truth of this, I'm just trying to get as many elements of this on the table as possible, Gabriel, to give a sense of why this is so heated. Because the truth is, an awful lot of Jewish people the world over are rather regularly now being told to go to another country.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not a matter of policy. I mean, obviously, you do have some right-wing elements.
It is in Gaza.
Yeah, but there's not very many Jews in Gaza. It's a Palestinian country that's under siege of Israel.
No.
Sorry,
Hamas,
maybe I'm missing your point.
No, Hamas in Gaza and all of their supporters want the Jews out of Israel. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
I have to disagree with you there. I mean, first of all, we all know Hamas is not, on the international stage, is not a legitimate entity. It's a terrorist organisation, as designated by the UK and the US.
I'm glad you think that. Sometimes politicians and even organisations like the BBC can't bring themselves to describe it that way.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how I've heard them described by the majority of, Western media out there. That obviously not everyone, sees them as a terrorist organisation. But I think we have to just look at this for what it is. This is an attempt to remove a people from a land, and whatever.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I think it's wholly unlikely to happen. It's wholly unlikely to happen. I'm almost more interested in what happens in Gaza now. I mean, we're in a sense. I had a conversation the other day about this. We're on air. Where we are, in a sense, getting ahead of ourselves because we've still got the ceasefire that is giving Gazans and Israelis, but Gazans who are there now, a modicum of peace over their heads so that they can breathe again. I don't want that to come to an end for those people, and I don't want it to come to an end for the families of the hostages or people waiting for their Palestinian prisoners' family members to come home either. I don't want that to end. My big fear, because I do not think that Trump's going to get his way on the basis of what he said last night, my big fear is that it will derail the ceasefire. I think in the here and now that matters way more.
I think there's a couple of things. With regards to the ceasefire, first of all, I mean, what we consider a ceasefire and what is actually happening are two different things. I mean, before October the 7th, it wasn't particularly a ceasefire. Palestinians were still being killed. And there's actually been recent reports of Palestinians being shot. A kid was shot not long ago by an Israeli sniper. So there is still conflict going on. Yeah. And second of all, I think...
Gabriel, that's normal in any ceasefire. But you have to admit that things are less tough in terms of bombardment at the moment.
Absolutely, and I don't disagree with that. And obviously, the Palestinians, are slowly returning to what they consider home. Which
and
is
Israelis are being bombed. You mustn't forget that. Israelis are being bombed as well still.
Yes, I mean, but you cannot compare the two. You're comparing one of the most powerful militaries in the world with a terrorist organization which is dropping, tin pot rockets.
Gabriel, I'm not saying one is exactly like the other, but it is if a missile lands on your house, and the fact is, bombardment of Israel has gone on throughout this. It happens to have better defences, of course, we know that, but it has gone on throughout all of this.
And ultimately, and we all know, and multiple human rights organizations, the solution to this is first of all, Israel needs to be held accountable for breaking human rights laws, which they continuously do.
And does Hamas?
Well, yes, but Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's not governed by the same law.
It can still be held to account, can't it?
Well, the ICC has issued arrest warrants for Hamas leaders, which they've killed. So, they are being held to account as much as they possibly can, but they're not governed by the same international law that a legitimate government is being governed by. So until we really, really start, pushing international law, until we start following international law, this will continue. And that starts with accountability.
And do we continue to fund Hamas?
But we're not funding Hamas. How are we funding Hamas?
Well, where else do they get their money to govern?
Well, we are not funding them. The international consensus is that it's funded by Iran, and and other
No,
players in the region.
sorry, I'm talking about Hamas, the government of Gaza, and prior to October the 7th, all of the global money that was going into Gaza for the people of Gaza to thrive. Plenty of it was actually going straight to Hamas, wasn't it? You must know that, Gabriel.
Well, of course it was. I mean,
so we can't have that either, can we?
No, of course we can't. Hamas has obviously shown itself not to be capable to govern in a political way. But also, I mean, we have to realise we cannot go around trying to dictate the future of the Palestinian people. It's up to them. And actually, when Hamas was elected, was it 16, 18 years ago?
But they haven't been allowed to have another election because Hamas is a totalitarian Islamist regime, as you must know.
Which it is, absolutely. We all know that. We know. Yeah. We know.
Whereas
what
Netanyahu can be voted out and will be.
Well, I mean, Netanyahu is currently on trial in his own country.
Very different set of affairs. I'm just trying to give the picture in the round rather than it just be all about what happens to Gaza. I think it's a nonsense what Donald Trump has said, but the motivation for it, what he's trying to kick into play, not ethnic cleansing. I hope he's not trying to kick that into play. I mean, I know his words would suggest that he is, but if he's trying to kick something else into play, well, time will show us what that is. That's why I'm trying to talk about what his motivation might be here. Hard to divine, isn't it, that brain? But let's have a go.